Today on the Shrewd Dudes podcast, we are going to talk about a few different things. We're going to do something we haven't done in quite a long time, and we're going to do a Shrewd Dudes sing-along, because why not? It's going to be immensely entertaining.
Glorious.
Okay, I might be not quite at that level, but okay, sure.
See how high we can sing.
Yep. Then in our This Week in Satire, we're going to mention how Ben & Jerry's are now accepting a new form of payment for Chunky Monkey ice cream.
Stupidity.
Yes, stupidity. Our rant of the week is about some little white powder in the big old White House.
Oh, yeah.
And who done it? I think it's pretty darn obvious.
It was Colonel Mustard in the kitchen with
Colonel Mustard in the kitchen with the white powder.
With the white powder.
Mm-hmm. Who would have known?
Who would have thunk it?
Yeah. In Big Brother Where That, we're going to discuss threads. Is it a threat to Twitter? I'm guessing not.
I
think not. And then finally, in our weekly exposure and weekly highlight, we're going to talk about how a guy literally calls the police on nakedness at the Pride Parade, and they're like, "It's okay during Pride. It's fine. It's fine.
Good. It's okay. It's the epitome of it's okay when we do it.
It's okay when we do it." But all of that and more on the Shrewd Dudes podcast.
I am.
Okay. I'm just checking where we're live right now. I have been trying to set up Restream to stream on Kick. And I don't know why, but it's still streaming on Twitter. And I don't know why. I've literally logged in and out of the thing, clicked the on and activate.
Yeah.
Yep. So
you've had this problem before. Remember, before you tried to do a live stream, stream on Twitch, and then that's how we ended up doing live streams on Tuesdays.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
I might have to just try if I can just disable them individually for those days, and then re-log in every single Tuesday and every single Thursday.
Twitter is hard to get rid of.
Yes, it is a little annoying.
It just will not go away.
But good evening, everyone. Welcome to our live stream. If you are joining us for the first time, we welcome you. And if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you have any comments, leave them in the comment section down below in the live chat, and we will answer them as soon as we can. And of course, if you have any questions which go unanswered, then just keep pestering us and we'll eventually get around to it.
That's a good model right there.
Yep.
It's he's only asked 3 times.
3 times.
He must ask 12
ask
times
it again.
before he gets an answer.
Must ask it again.
That's right.
So before we jump into everything, Danny, just give us a quick rundown of your trip to Kelowna, because you've had some connection issues while you were there.
My goodness, Tuesday was crazy. So first of all, I had to I tried to use the hotel. That was terrible. Worst internet I've ever had. Used my phone internet, so that actually thankfully worked. Yeah, trip was good. It was the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think it's the best way I can describe it. I had some really good. So my niece graduated, and we celebrated that.
Yeah.
And I got to hang out with my family various times. The bad was I pretty much inadvertently set off a gigantic nuclear bomb in the middle of my family. Well, that was fun. Basically, I said a comment during a conversation that apparently in my mom's culture is considered to be the ultimate taboo. It's okay. I didn't know, apparently. And then finally the ugly, the fallout of that. But there was a mix of good and bad. There were some really good things and some bad things. But yeah, I take it all in stride.
All right.
Yeah, but I'm glad to be back. It's been a while.
It has been a while. So we're yes, your internet has been exceptionally spotty since you've been gone.
Yes, it has.
So it's good to have you back where you have consistent internet and we can actually have a microphone that is good.
Yeah, this is actually a decent microphone.
And
thank you to Conquer Worm.
welcome to Conquer. Yeah, thank you to Conquerworm and hello to Console Document for joining the chat. You're always
Console document. Console.
always
document.
fun to have on here. Yeah. Well, actually, just a quick comment. So I was actually feeling okay on Thursday night.
It's his wife.
My wife and my kids were all sick, and so I was taking care of them on Thursday night. And I'm like, well, it'd be bad if I just went and did the show.
I mean,
and left. Technically,
you did study to be a nurse, so you got to fulfill your official mission.
Yeah, and then me taking care of them on Thursday night made me sick on Friday morning.
Go figure.
And so I like
proximity
didn't go to work on Friday, and I was like, oh, okay.
Steven, clearly, if you had worn a mask, everything would have been perfectly fine. Clearly. Masks are the magical, like like
saving grace of science.
Saving grace of science. Everything can be avoided with a simple mask at all points.
Yikes.
Yep.
That is an interesting point of view that I'm not endorsing in any way.
What point of view?
But before we do anything else, let's do something we haven't done in quite some time. The Console Document has never witnessed the 6th cycle of cycles. I will try and say it quickly. All right, let's be a challenge. The 6th cycle of sickness will end this cycle of sick.
That's only once.
Okay, I'm not going to do it again.
Okay.
I have to keep my voice prepared for when we do. The Shrewd Dudes sing along. So before we jump into
the tune.
Yes. So the tune is one you probably have all heard of. It is easily one of the best Disney songs ever made.
One of the reasons why
Console Documents, what are you guys about to do?
And one of the reasons why the original the live action sucked horribly.
Yes.
They completely abandoned music.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you suck now. We hate you now.
You suck
Thank
now.
Thank you for ruining my childhood.
So, the original Mulan film had a famous song called "Be a Man."
It's the ultimate,
or "Make a Man Out of You."
Okay, that song ranks right up there with "Men in Tights" as one of the best men songs.
Yes.
in cinema.
Mm-hmm.
From
I'm with you
Robin
there.
Hood Men in Tights. It's a great song.
Yep. So we are going to sing along with it.
Yeah, well, we're going to try.
Because the Babylon Bee did a So I'm not going to sing along with kind of the variations that they do in the Babylon Bee. I'm going to sing along with the traditional vocals from...
Boo!
Oh, come
Boo
on.
Earns! Boo Earns!
Am I here? Yeah, you're here?
I don't know.
I'm really doubting whether you're here yet.
That's a very existential question. I don't know if I can help you find this.
What's going on there, Denny?
Sorry, I pulled my computer and anyways.
Oh, unplugged it briefly?
Unplugged it briefly.
All right. Okay, so share this video with your friends before we sing along and entertain you greatly.
Sharing is caring.
Because sharing is caring. Especially when we sing along with interesting Babylon TV music videos.
By the way, when you do this, you have to full screen it so I can see the whole thing.
I will full screen, of course.
Good boy.
All right, so
I framed him well.
This is He's a Man. And this is the first. Okay, so do not mock too hard. We have not practiced
mock.
This. Okay, yes.
Have fun mocking.
Yes,
mock
please
away.
Do mock.
Mock
we
away.
have not practiced this in any way.
Oh, I'm gonna have some fun. It's like
all right.
Let's
go.
Watching your kids sing along to Disney movies on YouTube.
Yep. So it's gonna be rough. So let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
Throat clearing cough.
And if you're at home, feel free to sing along.
Yes, feel free to sing along.
Little PDAs.
It's horrifying.
Look away!
Let's get down to business to defeat this lie. Why you wearing makeup when you are a guy? You can wear those threads like Harry Styles, put on gender norms to rest. Yet you're still just a man in a dress. You were losing badly when you raced the men.
Oh no.
Once you change your gender, you are sure to win. You're a stubble-paunched, pathetic sort with Balenciaga boots. Yet you're still just a man with cute shoes.
I'm never gonna catch my breath. Say goodbye to those who know me.
Isn't there a type of tool for cutting?
This guy's got me scared to death.
He doesn't see right through me. What has been my whole life learning how to swim?
He's a man. Must read books to your grade school children. The force of a GameStop loot. The pride of a flaming chorus. The spirit of our agenda is to groove.
Time is raging toward us till the month of pride. Hoist your rainbow white flag, and you might survive.
I love this image.
Now we can't ignore your 6'4" with an Adam's apple too. Yet you're still just a man without truth.
He's a man. Books to your grade school children.
He's a man.
The force of a GameStop loot.
He's a man.
Of a flaming chorus. The spirit of our agenda is to groove. He's a man. Read books to your grade school children. The force of a GameStop loot.
He's a man.
The pride of a raging chorus. The spirit of our agenda is to groove.
Ramen for your children.
Oh, that was fun.
I didn't realize it. I really didn't realize it until he started that the audio was a little bit ahead of the
Oh, it was
actual
delayed?
video. So I couldn't actually see the lyrics until after
Oh,
they started
no.
singing. And I was like, nah, I can't sing. I can't do this. I can't sing. I can only listen to your incredible vocal stylings. That's all I could do. But it was still pretty fun to listen to you. Like you just leaned into it. It was great, man. Good job. 2K for my blood. Yes,
Yeah,
Conquer Worm 2K for a little 2K for my blood too. I'll be right back.
It's like
I need to go to the fridge to go get my Bud Light because
oh man,
we were officially tipped over
yeah,
the the gay line.
the gay line.
Yeah, that's right. The gay line.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
Mhm.
It is not straight at all.
Yeah, no, I did. I saw that video today and I was like, okay, it's been a long time since I've done the Shrew Dude sing along. Because the last one I did, so I think the only one here who will remember the last Shrew Dude sing along that we did, we did Biden Did You Know? Or at least I did around Christmas.
That's a great one.
And it was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed Biden Did You Know?
It's good. It's good.
So,
Yeah.
To answer your question, Conquer Worm, I have no idea what's going on with Restream. I have like deactivated things and reactivated things and signed off and signed on and tried to like reset it. And then it still has not managed to put me onto Kick yet.
Yeah. By the way, so Conquer Worm just asked, like, what sucks is that when you argue this stuff, is he able to come back with so's the church? That's Darbo.
Yes.
Darbo. It's basically what they do. Anybody who doesn't know Darbo is a tactic used by the left. Whenever you try to point out what they're doing and what they're doing is evil, is they first of all they deny, then if that doesn't work, they attack you, and then if that doesn't work, they try to like frame you as the bad guy and them the victim. That's basically that.
Well, and of course, when you're like, I did a little bit of research into this. So when you look at kind of the grandiose statistics, so of recorded incidents in the church in the past I think 25, 30 years.
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about this.
Yeah.
I remember.
The ratio of kind of sex offenders and illicit behavior and incidents is about 1 incident for every 2,000 church members. And that's assuming, of course, that every incident is performed by a different person, which is, of course, not true. Usually one person commits multiple acts. And so, yes, there are... Oh, yeah, it's still too high. I'm definitely with you that it's too high.
Give the ratio for the people in the rainbow community.
The problem is that because a lot of these people do not get arrested and they're not convicted, that we don't officially know. We just know that there's more stories coming out all the time of these people being arrested and actually investigated. Because now that the spotlight and now the pressure is on, and now that it is on, then these people will be exposed and they will actually be arrested.
Yeah.
There was an incident a couple weeks ago, and somebody's like, there is not one drag queen that has been arrested for like, sexual assault of a child. And I'm like, well, here's one. It's like they didn't assault the child, but they were trying to because they were basically in communication with the cop. Yeah. And to answer that last question, we have not seen Sound of Freedom yet. Like Danny and I were mentioning this before. It was limited screening. I think it was only available in one theater in the city for 1 day.
Yeah, that's what found out. Yeah.
So it's very similar to what happened a few years ago with Unplanned.
Yeah.
And so we will host a screening of Sound of Freedom when it comes out on home release. But for right now, there's nowhere in Canada where you can see this. And we want to actually give the producers of Sound of Freedom money, so we don't want to watch it illegally. So that's our justification for that.
Yeah, exactly. You want to...
because, their goal is exceptionally noble. We are going to mention it in our weekly highlight. So that's going to be the topic for that. So we're going to quickly move on. Yes?
Hold on. I just looked this up. Okay. Calgary Country Hills, Friday, July 7th. It looks like they might have a showing. Yeah, it looks like it.
They're talking about putting it free on Twitter, like what if they put it on free, like What Is a Woman, then we might. Well, I don't know. We'll try and figure out something. We might maybe. I don't know if we'll watch it live.
No.
But,
okay, so here's they do have a showing Friday on Country Hills theaters.
Okay.
At 6:00, 6:15, and 9:30.
Okay, well I can't.
And they're pretty close to being sold out.
Nice.
Which is awesome. Most of the showings are pretty close to being sold out, so that's pretty great.
Yeah, no, if I wish it was next week. Because usually on Fridays, my mother-in-law takes the kids, but they're only taking 2 of the kids tomorrow.
Also Saturday.
Okay, well, still.
I'll send you the link.
Yeah.
It sounds like there may be showings here locally.
Okay, so we'll try and watch it as best we can. But let's move on to This Week in Satire. And
that was This Week in Satire.
No, that was the Shrewd Dude sing along.
Started. That's satire, man.
Yeah, next time we do a Shrewd Dude sing along, it has to be in person.
Yeah. Otherwise.
Okay, so from Ben and Jerry.
They
announced Native Americans may exchange white man's scalp for free pint of Chunky Monkey. Woo! South Burlington, Vermont. Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield, founders of the popular ice cream company Ben & Jerry's, are calling for the return of all Native American land to the country of its original dead owners. To promote their new initiative, they announced a new limited-time offer that will allow Indigenous people to exchange one white scalp for a pint of Chunky Monkey. At any of... Oh, wait, I can't do it in like a super Chad voice. I have no idea what voice to do this in.
For an old man.
For Jerry. Oh, I guess I could do it in like a semi-Biden voice.
Yeah.
At any of our 205 locations, we invite our Native American friends to bring in one scalp from a pale-faced colonizer to trade for a sweet treat, said Jerry. This promotion will continue until all Native American lands have been returned, except, of course, for the lands in which our 205 locations reside. Obviously, that's a no-brainer. Otherwise, we'd be out of business. Ha ha!
You could also do like the Grandpa Simpson voice.
Okay.
This is a humble way of facilitating
All right,
some reparations for past injustices.
Needs to be a little whinier.
Little whinier. Because we're good liberals, and that's what good liberals do.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Yep. I want to emphasize how good we are. We're really good people. So good.
So good. You could also do like the two old guys from
Oh yeah. Like
Sesame Street.
yeah.
Muppet Show.
Yes.
So good.
Publishing
That's the
time.
way.
Ben and Jerry had finally agreed to give back the ancestral lands of their store locations in exchange for having a new location in every casino.
That's a good business plan right there. Good business plan.
Good business plan,
The-
but
the funny
dang.
The funny thing is, they actually Ben and Jerry's they made a tweet for Canada Day, and they're like, oh, Canada, our land on stolen land on stolen land, and I'm like,
Yep.
come on,
Mhm.
come on, give it a rest.
Oh, I get
Give it
so
a-
annoyed when they do
forget
stuff like
about
that
it.
at the uni.
Yeah.
It's just like, before we begin, we'd like it to do a territorial land acknowledgement. And
No.
I'm like, uh-huh. And who did they genocide to get this land?
Uh-huh.
No, we're not going to acknowledge that. I
Yeah,
wonder
that's-
why.
That's when I would just do like the Dr. Ebo, be like, how about no?
How about no? Yep.
Yeah.
Love
Yep.
to
Oh
see
yeah.
it.
I will never in my life sing lyrics. That's like never gonna happen. I think like when you hear people sing, they intentionally like sing
Oh.
louder to that part.
Yes. No, I remember like whenever we had the freedom rallies and we'd sing Okanda, every time
Yeah.
it would come to Sons, be songs.
And all the songs come on.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Like we did it. We actually did it at. So we sang Okanda at my son's school for his awards show,
Oh, nice.
and they didn't do the emphasis on sons, but they just put up on the screen that it was sons. Be like, nope, we're
Yeah.
not singing that.
Yeah. One of the
So-
wonderful things that our benevolent dictator has brought in against our will.
Yeah. Oh,
Wonderful.
yeah, benevolent dictator is.
right. Benevolent,
Oh boy.
whatever we want. What do we want to call him?
Yeah,
wanna-
I just call him the true dictator. It's the easiest way to get around it.
The ultimate dictator. You know,
Yeah.
Castro 2.0.
Castro 2.0.
But,
But
speaking of
let's go and
more
talk about the rant of the week.
degeneracy, let's do some rant of the week, man.
Alrighty. Let's do it. I got a cue.
Red alert.
Alright. So, rant of the week. Secret Service investigates cocaine found in the White House.
Bam, 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 bam. Cocaine.
Oh, I didn't think you were going there. It's like,
What-
bam,
what-
bam,
what's that?
bam, bam, bam. He
Bam,
found some
bam,
cocaine.
I know. how does that song go? Like, cocaine. Dun, 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 dun.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm singing the wrong song. It's like
Danny thinks
like-
I listen to songs about cocaine.
cocaine. It's like a song like that.
Oh, I don't know.
I know there's a song like that. Let me find it. Go do your thing.
Yeah. Whose is the white powder? Who do you think it is?
Well, I mean, it's like this. If this was a category on Jeopardy, it would be like everyone would be like, yeah, I know.
Who is
Yeah.
Hunter Biden? We cannot accept that answer as this time because the FBI told us not to.
That because that's an active investigation.
Active investigation into the son of the sitting president. So, the Secret Service is investigating how cocaine was found at the White House on Sunday night with visitor logs and footage combed for clues. The discovery in the West Wing, which contains the Oval Office and other working areas for presidential aides and staff, led to a brief evacuation. Secret Service agents found the powder during a routine inspection in the area that is accessible to tour groups. Joe Biden and his family were at Camp David in Maryland at the time. A senior law enforcement official told the BBC's U.S. partner CBS News the substance was found in a storage facility routinely used by White House staff and guests to store mobile phones. The complex was closed as a precaution, and a preliminary test confirmed the substance was cocaine.
Okay. By the way, I realized I got the wrong chorus for that song. It's like, if you wanna hang out, you gotta take her out. Cocaine. That's basically the theme song of the story. It's Eric Clapton. I was like, I knew that song. I just got the wrong beat. Coke. You don't lie. Cocaine.
Oh boy.
Have you never heard that song? It's
No.
a super popular Eric Clapton song.
I don't
It's
listen to
famous.
songs about cocaine.
If you wanna get down to the ground, cocaine.
I
And I was
love
like,
how they've
that might be
actually
a
called
song?
it Cocaine Gate now.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Well done,
Got a theme
Twitter.
song.
Well done.
Got a theme song. Oh my gosh.
Hunter Biden. Oh,
Where did they call it? Where did you find out they call it Cocaine Gate?
Well, because I was doing hashtags for like the Twitter post. And it's like hashtag, and I was like cocaine, and the first thing that comes up is Cocaine Gate.
Gate.
I'm like, it's Cocaine Gate.
Okay. So this story is about what the White House said it was, right? If I'm reading this correctly.
Yeah.
They basically claimed that it was like, oh, it was one of the visitors at the White House. That's basically their like Karine Jean-Pierre's. Like, by the way, whenever you hear anything that comes out of Karine Jean-Pierre's mouth, it's probably the opposite that's true. She is a pathological liar, and she is bad at it. It's like having your kid come home every night totally drunk, be like, where were you tonight? It's like, oh, we went roller skating. Like, why can't you stand up straight? Because the ground's tilted.
Yeah.
Okay, go to your room. That's basically what. Yeah. So, what do you think about that? How their whole excuse? What was your first thought when you heard them saying like, "Oh, it's probably like somebody who came visiting at the White House"? That was their excuse.
Yep.
That's what they
Okay.
said.
So the Conqueror was just telling a story about what rocks as a slang for cocaine is.
Rocks is a slang for cocaine.
Yes.
Okay,
Slang
I didn't know that.
rocks. Yep.
Well, I mean,
Another word. Apparently, I learned this while trying to offer food to the homeless. Apparently, you do not ask homeless people if they are hungry.
oh,
I was told this a few years ago because we're like, "Oh, are you guys hungry?" And this one guy's like, "Yeah." And then we're like, "Here's some pierogies," and he's like, "What the f is wrong with you guys?" And we're like,
what?
"What?"
Wait, what else do they think it is?
Apparently, according to this group of homeless people, if you ask them who is hungry, then you're asking in a subtle way who wants crack.
Oh, like, okay, I could see that from one of their own community if they run
But
around
people
with people
outside, it's just like that doesn't make sense.
yeah, if you're just a passerby, like walking, like like on the way, like somewhere or something like that, I'm like, it seems odd that like just a regular Joe would be like, oh, I know the code of the streets. It's like, no, sorry, I genuinely want to buy you food. Like, go figure. But yeah. So, anyways, the story about the White House basically said like and of course, Queen Jean-Pierre basically said it's like, oh, somebody who came to visit the White House, they left cocaine there. I call giant BS on that entire like thing because like the amount of scrutiny you have to go through, and several people have said like the scrutiny, like all of the little levels of screening you have to go through to get into the White House is insane. You have to go through metal detectors. They have like drug and bomb sniffing dogs. They have like all sorts of things to basically check to make sure that nobody can come into the White House with anything, like a weapon, with narcotics, with like what do you call it, anthrax, like nothing like that. And so the idea that somebody just casually brought in some cocaine is nuts. Not only that,
totally
if you get caught with that, that's major jail time at the White House. So it is such a bunk like excuse. It's like they don't even like treat us like we're intelligent anymore. They just lie and they're like, yeah, we know that this is like complete and total like dog poop, but whatever. We've stopped trying. We're not even trying to make our lies sound feasible. at all.
We're not
I'm
even we're not even trying to make them sound reasonable.
I mean, at least throw some effort into it. I mean,
At least
try
a little bit.
Yeah, just a tiny bit. Like you're not even making an effort anymore.
Just an ounce of effort.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's continue on with this story.
Unreal.
So, Secret Service will lead a full review of how it got into the White House. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said on Wednesday the White House staff permitted to give tours of some parts of the West Wing to friends and family. Visitors who are not accredited staff must store mobile phones and other personal belongings in cubicles. It was in one of the cubbies. A source familiar with the investigation told Reuters, "We have confidence that the Secret Service is going to get to the bottom of this."
Sure, dear.
Yep. Okay, let's see. BBC, are you honest? Do you mention... Nope, they don't mention Hunter Biden once. You dishonest hacks. You hacks.
Nobody even suggests. Most people immediately went, Hunter Biden is the leading contender because the only people who could actually sneak like serious drugs like that into the White House would be people who don't routinely get screened or checked when they come into the White House. Those are people with high level clearance. So it's either Hunter Biden or it's somebody else with a high level of clearance. By the way, every one of these rooms has video surveillance. The idea that they don't know who potentially may have brought that is insanely stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a break. It's either Hunter or somebody else. They know who it is. They're treating you like children. Come on.
Oh yeah, they are. And then, of course, we have one more story on this. Cocaine was found near the Situation Room and not in the West Wing visitor entrance. Drug story changes for the second time. A Secret Service now says the dime bag was found in a more secure location. Yep. So this is just looking really, really good for for the Bidens. Okay, Daily Mail. I'm fairly certain you'll do it. Okay, HUN. 5 times. Yep. They mentioned Hunter that he was in.
Yep, Hunter.
In the comments?
We're there. Biden and son Hunter.
It's all... Yeah, but it doesn't mention that his son is a notorious crack addict.
No, but at least they mentioned him in the story.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So,
I repeat a question.
It's a little better.
Who abandoned drugs while Biden and son Hunter were in Camp David for the weekend. So that's their excuse, they weren't there, so they can't be Hunter.
Just don't watch the video of him being in the White House at any other time.
Yeah,
of course.
Sure thing. Now what do you think about that this whole scenario, Stephen, about the drugs in the White House? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think Tim Pool put it best. He's turned the White House into a crack house.
I mean, technically, crack cocaine is white, so I mean, I guess it does fit.
The Cracker House.
The cracker. The funny thing is, people have mentioned that what is it? Bill Clinton, apparently it's likely that he may have done drugs while he was at the White House.
Oh, it's very likely.
What was it JFK, different people, different presidents, and all that. But the Trump White House was one of the ones that they wouldn't even allow people to be in the White House with even minimal drugs, even low end kind of marijuana.
Very strict on it.
Yeah, so this is just, how do you put it? Imagine swapping again. Let's do that old switcheroo game. Imagine if this had happened under Trump. The media would be having a feeding frenzy, like sharks on with blood in the water. They'd be going nuts about the cocaine in the house. But the thing I find most insane about these kind of things is, I don't know, Steve, can you actually look it up before look up Biden's response to being asked about the cocaine in the White House?
Sure.
I don't know if you can look it up really quick, because that's the thing that bugs me the most, is that Biden is so completely insulated, that his response is not even a real response. It's just
All right,
mockery.
we do have some breaking news.
Okay, so this is from...
You keep doing YouTube.
Well, this is a video from CNN.
Well, CNN sucks.
I know they suck, but...
He's a YouTube diehard.
I'm not a YouTube diehard. I just literally Googled it.
Well, you're always going to get YouTube videos, and we always have to go to Twitter. And do they show it?
It
Wait,
says
sorry,
Biden
who was
administration reacts, but it doesn't
Who was
have
right?
anybody
Who was
from
right? Who was right? Yeah, that's right. Go to Twitter, you silly person.
silly person.
It's funny. Like
Let's-
we do this all the time. We look up a YouTube video, and it's like and YouTube is almost entirely the media,
What?
response
Why
to
will
it.
this not load properly?
Twitter.
Oh, there it is. Now Twitter's loading, apparently.
Mm.
Wasn't loading. Biden,
Okay.
cocaine.
Yeah, but by the way, Biden's response to like any serious allegations of any kind, he just laughs them off and then calls them silly or crazy, like the people who don't respond properly. I'm like, dang, come on, man.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
like,
no, there's nothing on Twitter.
what? Crazy. Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing.
I guess we're not gonna see it today. But
No, we're not.
basically, Biden's response, as always, is he just laughs it off, and like he basically has like no respect for regular people. Be like, yeah,
No.
we're a little. There's people in prison right now, all over the country for even less like serious like drug offenses in all over the U.S. and not a big deal. Who cares? Like it's a nothing burger, like they like to say.
Okay.
It's dumb. Rant over.
So,
Rant over.
quickly addressing before we talk about the Big Brother Where Art Thou. So, from Console Document, what do you guys think about the Trump record case? We have mentioned this before. I know that several people have brought up the fact that the admissions that Trump makes on video are not concerning the ones that he has been indicted for. So, in those ones, it's less of a clear-cut case. In the matter of the ones in which he is caught on video saying, I could have declassified this, but I didn't, then all they'd have to do would be to indict him on those charges, and they'd have a serious smoking gun. So he kind of shot himself on the foot on that one.
Yeah.
I think, of course, as we've said many, many times, the indictment is a true mockery of justice, and that Hillary did the same thing. Biden did something very, very similar. They're untouchable. Whereas, Trump is basically just given the boot.
Yeah, I would actually recommend if you have a chance, if anybody has a chance. I listened to Robert Barnes. Do you know who Robert Barnes is,
Yep.
Steve? Okay.
Barnes.
Robert Barnes. Yeah, Robert Barnes and Viva Fry are like they.
I'm
they
just
often
trying to
have
think of what the name of the Barnes and what the law department it is.
I'm not sure.
They have a law firm. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yes, love him. But anyways, Robert Barnes was on Michael Malice's show called like You're Welcome. And he talked about the Trump indictment and the documents case, and he had. I have to admit, I've listened to so many people like Ben Shapiro, to like all sorts of conservative commentators. He had probably the most comprehensively, like well done, like summary of that case that I think I've ever heard. I was like, wow, so basically what he was saying is that it's kind of unprecedented in the sense of like, but it's not unprecedented in the sense that he doesn't believe at all that Trump will actually face any actual jail time. Because and he had a really good take on it. He's like that. Okay, so even if there might be a chance that they could actually get him on this thing, it's gonna take years before they actually see any actual court time, because it has to go through the indictment, then it has to go through the appeals, then it has to go up to higher courts before it even and he's like it wouldn't even see a trial until after the election, and then at that point it'll be pointless. It'll be moot, because Trump himself will pardon himself once that happens, or Biden will most likely pardon him in an attempt to avoid getting any prosecution on himself. So either way, Robert Barnes doesn't believe at all that he'll actually get any actual serious jail time. All of this is basically obviously obstructionism of the worst kind, and he says in reality, with the Supreme Court the way it is right now, it's unlikely that any challenge of the precedent that's been set, like the precedent for presidential records constitutionally, could ever be overturned. like there's a reason why Bill Clinton was excused with the shock war kind of like case, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, all authority ultimately ends at the president, and the idea that the president can be essentially charged for like taking documents, it doesn't matter. Like he's a president, he has the final say, and the idea that any administrative state could overrule the president, it's insane. And
Yep.
so I was like, dang, that's actually a really good point, because ultimately the president doesn't answer to the what is it called, like the records people or something like that. He doesn't answer to them; they answer to him.
Yeah.
And so definitely go on Michael Malice's podcast. Listen to Robert Barnes's little summary on it. It's probably one of the best ones I think I've heard. Recommend
Okay. All right. So let's jump into.
News you may have missed.
No, nothing news
Or
you may
no.
have missed.
Oh, you're doing you're doing
Big Brother, where art thou? Let's do it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a few different things and then go into the actual story. Federal judge rules Biden and Mint acted like Orwellian Ministry of Truth using big tech to censor Americans. Federal judge ruled Tuesday the Biden administration acted like an Orwellian Ministry of Truth by working in conjunction with big tech platforms to censor opinions it didn't like during the COVID pandemic. District Judge Terry Doughty of Louisiana noted that the administration most likely violated the First Amendment as Republican attorneys general from Missouri and Louisiana produced evidence of a massive effort by defendants from the White House to federal agencies to suppress speech based on its content. Not only was COVID-related content suppressed, but also questions regarding the results of the 2020 election, Trump won, and the Hunter Biden laptop story as several other topics. So Senator Eric Schmidt, yeah, we just poke that. We put that every single time now that YouTube has been like, oh, you can say that now.
Yeah, now it's no longer a conspiracy theory. Now it's like, now it benefits them again.
Yeah. So Senator Eric Schmidt, former AG of Missouri, headed up the prosecution describing Biden administration's actions as federal censorship enterprise. Mm-hmm. Which is true. It's true. We've been saying this for a very, very long time. The Biden administration did it. The DOJ did it. Canada did it.
Yeah.
Big, like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter before they switched under the control of Elon. All hail Elon.
Hail Elon.
And it's been happening for a long time. And we're glad that it's finally coming to light for those who are kind of in darkness and not aware of what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Because
I think,
at this point, you have to be... Basically, you had to have put your head into a hole in the ground to have not realized what was going on in terms of the censorship of content.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, we just want to remove misinformation. No. You want to remove anything that goes against your government mandates, your government dogma.
By the way, somebody recently put it in a way that I really liked. Remember how I think they said that misinformation is information they want you to miss, and disinformation is information they want you to diss.
Ooh, I like that.
And I was like, that's good. That's actually, because that perfectly illustrates what the intent of using misinformation. They would prefer if you just ignore this. So it's information they want to hide, essentially. And disinformation is information they want you to be against the either the people or the information that those people are spreading. And I'm like, that perfectly summarizes what this is weaponized speech. That's the whole point. By the way, the Supreme Court has like literally just been batting 100 recently.
Oh, yeah.
They've had some crazy amounts of big wins, and this one shows that at least in America, there are some very amazing the courts are actually like just like really protecting people, which is great because essentially the idea is that that the courts and the federal judges are absolutely stopping these dystopian tyrants in their tracks. So the American system is proving that, at least for now, it's actually holding strong against the incursions
It is.
of a lot of people, which is great. which is amazing.
It's great, and I'm loving it. I really wish that Canada had even a fraction of this.
I think we need to join. We need to join Germany. Germany, go down to Texas.
Yes.
Find the freedom. Except I miss the mountains.
Yeah.
It would be tough. It would be tough.
There would be things that we would miss for sure. But let's continue. So, the censorship in this case almost exclusively targeted conservative speech, Dowdy noticed, but further emphasizing that the censorship efforts go beyond party lines. The evidence produced thus far depicts an almost dystopian scenario during the COVID-19 pandemic, a period perhaps best characterized by widespread doubt and uncertainty. The United States government seems to have assumed a role similar to an Orwellian Ministry of Truth. Viewpoint discrimination is an especially egregious form of content discrimination, Dowdy further wrote, ruling the government must abstain from regulating speech when the specific motivating ideology or perspective of the speaker is the rationale for the restriction.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically pointing to officials within the Department of Health and Human Services, the judge issued an injunction stating they should be barred from communicating with social media companies for the purpose of urging, encouraging, pressuring, or inducing in any manner removal, deletion, suppression, or reduction of content containing unprotected free speech. Woo!
I think the problem, Robert Barnes put it really well when he was talking about the story. He said that what the government can't do in the front door, it's trying to do through the back door.
Yes.
And so the whole argument that like it's a private company, they can do what they want, doesn't work because it basically is. This is fascism. This is one of the principles of a fascist framework, which essentially. So the main difference between how communism and fascism operates is that communism tries to basically own everything. Okay, they try to own every major industry, like they try to nationalize the gas, the food, whatever else. Fascism basically tries to work hand in glove with major, companies, and basically they all operate under the same. Essentially, they follow the orders of whoever's in charge. So really, this is basically a fascist approach of how are we going to consolidate power? Is they try to team up with companies to basically force people to do what they want, essentially. But yeah, it is it's great to see that not only are we seeing some judicial kind of pushback on this, but and this is the important part, regular people are now seeing that this stuff is happening. So it's getting harder to fool people. During COVID, most people, when you tell them social media is basically censoring people, shadow banning, they're doing all this kind of things. People were like, okay, that just seems like a stretch. And most people were very skeptical about that. Thankfully, nowadays, it's no longer, it's not like a fringe idea. It's not even something like few people like you, Stephen, you and I, during COVID, during essentially 3 years of COVID, from 2020 to 2022, we were talking about this. We were talking about how social media is clearly targeting conservatives, censoring speech, and deplatforming people who basically had ideas that they didn't want. And most people were very kind of they just didn't believe it or they didn't see it. Nowadays, it's great because now it's becoming a normal thing that you mentioned that people are like, oh yeah, there's very few people disagree with you now. And this is awesome because that means that you need popular support in order to be able to push the laws that push back against this kind of aggressive action by the government.
Aggressive authoritarianism.
Yeah, you disarm them by basically information. Information is their biggest weakness.
It is. And something that's prevented from being shared now in Canada is information.
News, in particular.
Yes, so Rodriguez pulls government ads from Facebook, Instagram amidst Bill C-18 chaos.
Yeah, they're having a little bit of a spat.
So in response to Meta's decision to block Canadian news content from their platforms as a retaliation measure for the passage of the Online News Act, Heritage Minister Pablo Rodriguez announced that the government of Canada will be pulling all advertising from Meta's social media platforms. In total, $10 million worth of government advertising will be pulled from Facebook and Instagram. The Trudeau government's decision is being supported by the Bloc Québécois and the NDP. Yep,
they're having a little petty squabble.
Squabble because it's you won't pay us.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's you want to post news? Why would you post news that goes against us? But it's not just Facebook. Google to remove Canadian news stories after Trudeau's Online News Act requires platforms to pay for links. So Google announced in response to the C18 it would be removing links to Canadian news from a number of key places in the world's most popular search engine. When the new law comes into effect, those looking for news from Canadian news publishers will no longer be able to find such content in Google's search, news, or discover tabs. Yep, that's just great. Totally what we want for people not to be able to discover news.
Okay, so this is like a perfect example. Like people like last week or Tuesday, maybe. Yeah, Tuesday. Somebody from Germany asked us, like, what is Trudeau like? And we're like, well, he's a full-on, full-blown tyrant. Cares nothing about anything, from like law and all the this little stunt that the Canadian government pulled. It's having such a massive whoops moment that they have two choices. Either they can basically accept the embarrassment of like, whoops, we didn't calculate properly, or they could double down and be like, we were right, and we're gonna take on social media, and like they're looking more and more idiotic by the day. And this is what's going on, is like they can't, like, Trudeau has a tendency to overstate or estimate his importance in international matters. He thinks that he's much more important and has a bigger voice and bigger impact than he really does. He's like a little kid at the adult table thinking I know what we should do. We should just give everyone French fries. And like, okay, sit down, little Justin. Go sit in the corner. Like that. This and by the way, like a lot of like Canadian conservative commentators have been pointing out that like this is like unhinged behavior. The government is basically picking a fight that they're just not going to win, because Google, Facebook, all of these major companies, they do not need Canada. Canada is basically smaller than most U.S. states in terms of population. And in terms of like actual influence and impact, like, yeah, they don't really make a dent in Google or Facebook's worldwide impact and all that. Like they could care less. I think Australia tried to do this a while back, but theirs wasn't anywhere near as obvious. Like what they try to do is they basically try to say, well, our news media is dying. We basically can only fund them so much without looking like we're like literally buying off and bribing them. And so like, how can we get them more money? Oh, I know. We'll basically just make a rule, change the rules of the game, and say like, oh, Facebook, if you want to, you have to pay, you have to pay us for every link that links to a news page, thinking like, oh, we're so clever. And ultimately, like what he didn't calculate, like most fools really don't calculate, is that, hey, maybe they're not going to comply. That they never counted on that. They were basically already counting their money before it actually came in. It's one of those, like, again, embarrassing moments in Canadian history where like they're just like, what the heck? So yeah, so social media is powerful, and even the Canadian government cannot kind of push them around, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And speaking of social media, there is a new form of social media.
No,
so Twitter sends Meta cease and desist letter over new Threads app. What?
You just missed a perfect opportunity. Like in what do you call it? Smash Brothers. It's like a new challenger is emerging or something like that.
See, I actually did that for when Tori was, when we were doing the baby announcement for Tori.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, we did new challenger approaches.
Yeah. Well, this is what basically
nobody got it.
Well, this is what Threads would do.
Yes.
It's basically like a new challenger is approaching.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if they measure up.
So Twitter sent Meta a cease and desist letter over the newly launched Threads app. Sources familiar with the letter's existence told ABC News the letter was sent by Twitter's legal team Wednesday. The sources said the letter accused Meta of misappropriating Twitter's trade secrets, and it said Meta hired former Twitter employees who retained proprietary information. Over the past year, Meta has hired dozens of former Twitter employees. The letter, signed by lawyer Alex Spiro, reads, Twitter knows that these employees previously worked at Twitter. that these employees had and continue to have access to Twitter's trade secrets and other highly confidential information. These employees owe ongoing obligations to Twitter. Many of these employees have improperly retained Twitter documents and electronic devices, and continues with that knowledge. Meta deliberately assigned these employees to develop in a matter of months Meta's copycat Threads app with the specific intent that they use Twitter's trade secrets and other intellectual property in order to accelerate the development of Meta's competing app in violation of both state and federal law.
That's crazy.
So yeah, like this, we've covered a lot about how Elon Musk took over. He fired the majority of the staff. They were very upset about this. They were also very upset at the beginning because he wouldn't remove and censor a lot of the contents, and he's still having to go through and he's still having to kind of address a lot of the issues with content moderation because there are some holdovers from that era. But Threads, I think somebody, I might have to try and look it up, but I think somebody asked Mark Zuckerberg, it is like, so what is your intention with Threads? And he's like, everybody being nice. It's like,
sure,
okay,
only the right people.
Yeah, only the right people, because as soon as he said that, and as soon as the platform opened up, yes, within 24 hours, 24 million people downloaded the app.
Yeah,
but it's already censoring accounts.
Yeah. It's like James Lindsay talked about this. There's a concept within like communism or Marxism, in that whenever they say like we want to protect people or we want to protect this whatever, when they say people, that it's very specific. When you say people or you say students or you say whatever group of people, it never means everyone. It only means those in the cult. So when Mark Zuckerberg says we want to create a place for people to talk or something like that, it's like, no, it's communist doublespeak.
Yeah.
When they say people, they don't mean everyone. They mean only the
elite
people who are in, only those who are within the cult sphere. That's what they mean. This is why this only reinforces why Twitter is so important right now.
Oh yes, it's definitely like one of the big ways that people communicate. So this is great. But continuing on with this story, the newly released app has been likened to a Twitter killer. As he and Elon continue to trade barbs, literally, but it appears the only thing Zuck's Threads app is killing will be your free speech. Ooh. They were so obsessed with hating Elon and Twitter, they couldn't sign up for Threads fast enough, and they did so without even knowing what type of product they were getting. So far, it's bringing a lot of questions about censorship. It's also bringing serious concern regarding its private data collection. Barely even 12 hours into launch, there have already been numerous examples of Threads censoring accounts, even putting warning labels on profiles for anyone who wants to follow them. So this is a picture for DC Drano.
Oh, he's great.
If you request to follow them, are you sure you want to follow DC Drano? It's repeatedly posted false information. Yeah, and it's like, how would you judge this if they just joined the account?
Yep.
It's like, I get that you're connected to like Facebook and Instagram, but like at least make your crap a little less obvious.
At least try to pretend you are not.
Pretend that you're unbiased.
Oh yeah.
But it's Facebook. They can't even pretend to do that.
Yeah. By the way, a really quick response to 6 million lies. Communism is equal socialism. Yeah, because socialism is basically the early stages of communism. Anybody who studies it, they start with socialism and it always inevitably moves to communism. They're not two different things. It's the same thing. It's just like socialism is basically like the toddler and communism is the adult. It's like, well, you're moving in that direction. So
communists are honest about what they were doing.
That's right.
Like, we all live in social harmony, and communists are like, you go to Gulag.
You go to the Gulag. Yep. No bread for you. Only bread lines. It's great.
Yep. Also, very good read. Gulag Archipelago. It's very, very interesting. But this is... Oh, sorry. Please go ahead.
I'm just going to say, anybody who really wants to understand what's really going on in society, I talk about this all the time, go look up James Lindsay and look up the new discourses. He does so much amazing work that when you listen to his short-term podcasts and all that, you're going to learn an awful lot about what is actually going on and how they operate. Like he goes into like the operating system of the left, and it's like things that didn't make sense before. You're just like, oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like okay, now I understand how they operate, and it's no longer confusing. I used to be so confused. I was like, the left doesn't make any sense. Like they're just weird, bizarre, double standards, and double speak, and all, and then, anyways, go listen to James Lindsay. He's amazing. You'll learn a lot. That's what I wanted to point out.
Yep.
Right?
Oh yes. So
It's crazy. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, please do. I was just kind of killing.
Yeah, I never know. Like when Steven's working on something or when he's not. So like that's why I have a tough time jumping in. Okay. When it comes to Facebook is it's hard because Mark Zuckerberg is this weird, like he's like Jack Dorsey, but he kind of goes back and forth. He'll jump on he sounds a little bit like reasonable, and then he'll go right completely to the other side, and then he'll be like full on sellout, like communist, like sympathizer. It's like you can't really get a sense of what Mark is like. However, Elon Musk, one of the moments that really solidified that Elon Musk is legit is when they had that whole thing with the What Is a Woman documentary, where Twitter was basically like they totally did an about face, decided that they're going to ban, block or severely limit the documentary. People were like, oh, okay, what the heck, like we're back to like the old Twitter. And Elon Musk came back and he basically not only did he completely undo it, he fired the person responsible, and then he himself used his own Twitter account to promote the movie. And I was like, that is a sign of a guy who follows up with what he
didn't get like 125 million views within like a week.
It was crazy. Like actually, it had the Barbra Streisand effect. It was amazing. So, Twitter's the real deal, and they're legitimately like the free speech platform right now. Whereas Threads, good luck.
Oh, Threads is just all it's being is basically they're just trying to be like, oh, there's a desire amongst the left to go to a place which censors, which we say that we're going to be like niceness and non-censory, but yeah, we're super sensory.
Well, it's funny because they always like accuse conservatives of like echo chambers, like, oh, they're going to through social echo. Like it's an echo chamber because like the left never joins those places, but then they go to like actual echo chambers where they literally purge anybody with a different opinion. It's like, well, you only have one opinion on that site. Like, yeah, it's great. We're the smart thinkers. I'm like, you basically have no dissenting voices. You are an echo chamber by definition, bro.
Well, yeah, because some conservatives, and I've pointed this out to people. It's like, oh, like why does everybody that you have in your feed disagree with you? It's like, because I don't seek echo chambers. I don't seek the patriot follow chains. I could be like, oh, follow back all patriots. Don't care. I'm not here for that. It's dumb. It's stupid. It's just attention grabbing nonsense. I'm like, no, Twitter allows free speech. I'm going to use that. I'm going to engage with people who disagree with me because I can.
Yeah. And the funny thing is what I would say is that Twitter is actually fun again. That's the best part because like you actually watch people duel it out on Twitter and you're like, yeah, this is cool. Like, you have people saying some really dumb things, but the comment sections redeem pretty much most of those things because you're like, you see ratios, you see people actually coming up with some very decent, comebacks or comments, pointing out the flaws in their arguments and all that. And one of my favorite things about Twitter right now is the community notes, which we'll see how long it lasts. But community notes is probably the best answer to fact checking because fact checking. The one thing we know about fact checking right now, and especially on because we run into it all the time. By the way, if anybody's on Facebook, we have a group called Northern Lights, which is like shares political stuff. But we constantly get like fact checked for people posting things.
Yeah, we do.
And we're like, the second you get like a fact check, we're like, well, that just proves it. It's correct. Because that's basically, they work the opposite. So Twitter actually does the opposite, and their community notes are actually helpful, whereas fact checks are basically complete and total piles of garbage, and they're basically lying, professional liars is what they are. So that's all I got to say about that. Oh, Steven's still working.
Yep. No, I'm just texting something. But anyways, so let's start with the news you may have missed. Let's talk about the news that you may have missed.
Should I start or you want to start?
Oh, you go for it.
You know what? You've been reading a lot. I'll give you a break.
Sure.
All right. This is a story from Summit News. By the way, I actually really like Summit. It's what's his name? Paul Joseph Watson. He does great work. Actually, he's kind of like the UK version of the Counter Signal. Guy who used to work with a major platform, makes his own news network now. I find it very helpful. He does a great job. So this story is report: UN Pact for the Future seeks permanent emergency powers for complex global shocks. So not just like pandemics, but everything. Any major event will see globalists attempt to take complete control. By the way, this is part of the plan. 2030 kind of takeover is they basically want to take away power from local governments or like national governments to be able to make decisions, and they want to basically consolidate power in one major institution. So the UN is set to outline a far-reaching plan to secure emergency powers that would allow the global body to lead a common agenda for all nations during any complex global shocks, such as a new pandemic. It's almost like they're planning something. The Federalist reports that the plan is to be finalized at a September 2004 Summit of the Future, where the UN will adopt the Pact for the Future to include policies that have been outlined in the globalist body's Common Agenda report. By the way, R is, again, communist doublespeak for the elite, the people who are part of the insider group. One such policy is an emergency platform during any events that have a global impact that would require the UN the authority to actively promote and drive an international response that makes the principles of equity and solidarity at the center of its work. So, basically, the UN is trying to do for the world what the EU did for Europe. A lot of countries in Europe, including the UK that had Brexit, they basically said the EU only works for the good of elites in Brussels. They don't work for the good of the countries. And most of the time they basically do things that actively hurt, and definitely are not in the favor of the local country and their people. So they want to basically expand the EU and their abuses to the entire world, using the UN as their cudgel, basically to force this onto everybody. So watch out, this is coming, and they're all hard at work behind the scenes, making sure that one of the Achilles heels of COVID for them, and one of the things that they learned from COVID, is that they basically can't have local governments disagreeing and not walking in lockstep. They had countries like South Africa, like India, a lot of African countries, and like Sweden, any country that does not join in lockstep and does everything that the elites want, makes them look bad and exposes the flaws in their plans. So they basically want to patch up that problem and be like, well, how can we fix this? Well, we'll make sure that everyone do, and we remove the decision-making power from the governments themselves. So that's what's going on in the UN. Welcome to the new globalist government. Who's excited?
Who's excited?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take the next one, Steve.
All right, let's take the next one. So, from the Daily Mail. Nearly half of tap water in the United States is laced with hormone warping forever chemicals linked to cancer and infertility. Major government study finds, with the worst hit areas in California, Eastern Seaboard, Great Lakes, and Great Plains. So, government science has detected toxic PFAS in 45% in U.S. water sources. The sprawling study is the most comprehensive yet to highlight the problem. Almost half of all tap water sources are laced with a toxic chemical. Experts said the findings were frightening, given the scale of the problem and the link between toxins and serious health conditions like cancer, infertility, birth defects, and hormone issues. In the most comprehensive study of its kind, researchers from the U.S. Geological Survey tested water sources at more than 700 locations across the country for per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, which is PFAS. Microscopic man-made chemicals can take thousands of years to break down in the environment of the human body, hence the name forever chemicals. Found 45% of the drinking water sources contained at least one PFAS, the highest concentrations in these areas that they list here. So,
That's crazy.
to quote a famous line, they're turning the freaking frogs gay.
That was actually a really good impression. I'll give you that.
All right.
Did you get rid of the science story?
What?
Oh no, you just flipped them. Okay.
Oh no, I put it straight to science.org.
Gotcha. Okay.
So make
Am I
sure
doing
and
the science
use-
story?
Yeah, you do the science story. Make sure and just
Okay.
use the words.
Sounds good. Okay, so this story from .org, rare link between coronavirus vaccines and long COVID-like illness starts to gain acceptance. Studies probe unusual cases of neurologic complications, blood pressure swings, and other side effects. COVID vaccines have saved millions of lives, according to them. And the world is gearing up for a new round of boosters, but like all vaccines, those targeting the coronavirus can cause side effects in some people, including rare cases of abnormal blood clotting and heart inflammation. Another apparent complication, a debilitating suite of symptoms that resembles long COVID, has been more elusive. Its link to vaccination is unclear, and its diagnostic features ill-defined. But in recent months, what some call long vax has gained wider acceptance among doctors and scientists, and some are now working to better understand and treat the symptoms. You see 1 or 2 patients, you wonder if it's a coincidence, but by the time you've seen 10 or 20, where there's smoke, there's fire. Causes seem very rare. Essentially, what they're basically pointing out is that I remember listening to a very prominent scientist talking about a doctor. He talked about this. One of the problems with COVID is that it is remarkably difficult to differentiate between long COVID caused by COVID and long COVID caused by the vaccines. So what basically happened for a long time after the vaccines rolled out is that anytime somebody had long COVID, the default answer of every major medical group and doctors and all that was, oh, it's COVID that caused it. Always COVID. It's COVID's the cause, because that by saying it's COVID that caused it, you can still encourage people to keep taking the vaccine. However, now obviously there's evidence coming out and a lot of studies that are basically trying to turning that knowledge on its head. And studies are starting to come out to say yeah, actually it sounds like the vaccines are every bit as likely to cause long COVID as COVID itself. And the most difficult thing was separating which ones are obviously caused by the vaccines, which ones are caused by COVID. It's part of a longer trend of things that we basically said in the past, basically being confirmed in most modern studies. So yeah, just expect more of this to come around.
Yep.
It's just going to be kind of crazy.
Something that we should also be expecting to come around is more effects with Bud Light. The human cost of Bud Light's $20 billion Dylan Mulvaney fiasco. 2 bottling plants are forced to cut production and lay off 645 staff to decline in demand for their troubled brand. The Arta Group announced last week that it was shuttering its Wilson, North Carolina and Simsboro, Louisiana plants. They employed nearly 400 people and 245 people respectively, and all find themselves without a job. The major producers of Bud Light bottles, sales of which have plummeted since trans TikToker Dylan Mulvaney posted a promotion for it. So, yep. Bud Light, you had a way out. You did. All you had to do was distance yourself from Dylan Mulvaney and apologize to your consumer base. What did you do? You doubled down, tried to pretend it didn't exist. You made an advertising criticizing all old Bud Light drinkers as the stupidest dumb hicks in the world. And then you tried about 3 or 4 different ads to pander to make yourself feel patriotic and American. Well, it's not working. You're done. You're done, son. You're drunk. Go home.
It's because they took too long to apologize or to even make an effort to apologize, and just they're trying to basically pretend nothing happened. It's like somebody who basically stole your car. Everyone knows that they stole your car, but they just refuse to even acknowledge it. And definitely refuse to apologize for stealing your car. It's well, yeah, we can't trust you anymore. You're out of here. You're not allowed. Get off my property.
Get off my property.
Get off my property before I make you. All right, last story from Daily Mail as well. Exclusive as Taylor Swift's record of Speak now gets set to drop, Daily Mail has uncovered evidence that casts doubt on her victim narrative that she was duped out of owning her own music catalog and suggests pop star's dad knew about Scooter Braun deal. I hadn't heard about this, but I'm like, dang, that sucks. If you as an artist lose basically ownership of your music and like royalties, like that's a big deal. So the imminent release of Taylor Swift's third re-record, Speak Now, due tomorrow, has to put her victim narrative back in the news. Taylor says she only learned her masters had been sold to Scooter Braun when the public did. But the Daily Mail investigation reveals the story. Industry sources claim her father, Scott Swift, a stakeholder in her former record label, Big Machine Label Group, and management team were told in advance. Emails also show her team did not enter negotiations to buy Taylor's masters when Braun came to sell it, despite her publicly claiming she wasn't given the chance. So it sounds like Taylor Swift is basically saying, like, you know, oh, I'm a victim. Basically people duped me out of the rights to my music. But it sounds like one of the people that basically had, you know, the ability to go in and negotiate to get the rights to that music back was her father. And so it sounds like Taylor Swift's, like, you know, like sad victim story is maybe not quite as accurate as we might think. It's kind of hard to feel bad for like a megastar, like ridiculously rich like Taylor Swift.
Yep.
Yeah, but it shows that even if you are ridiculously rich and have like a people around you with tons of, like, you know, knowledge and lawyers, you can still be bamboozled out of, like, you know, bamboozled out of your things. I mean,
bamboozled.
She is definitely not a dumb blonde, but she has definitely got a little egg on her face on this one. So
yeah,
like,
well, she deserves it, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Another person that totally deserves a little egg on her face is Greta Thunberg.
And she would hate it because she's a vegan.
How dare you?
How dare you throw egg on my face?
Greta Thunberg, charged with disobedience for blocking oil tankers for 6 days. She's been charged in Sweden with disobeying a police order after she joined a group of climate activists blocking oil tankers at the port in June. Swedish prosecutors confirmed Wednesday that a young woman was charged with disobedience because she refused to comply with police orders to leave the scene. The statement didn't identify the defendant, but Swedish prosecution authority spokeswoman Annika Collin revealed that it was the 20-year-old Thunberg. You have the freedom to demonstrate, but you must not demonstrate in such a way that it causes disturbances for others, Swedish prosecutor Charlotte Ottosson. According to the reporting by the local news outlet Sydsvenska.
I feel like we need the Swedes from like Brooklyn Nine-Nine to pronounce it.
Yep.
Sydsvenskan.
Well, you just have to adopt the Swedish voice from the IKEA guy.
Oh yes, it's
the IKEA summer sale.
Oh, would you like some something? You know.
Welcome to Sydsvenskan. Yeah.
Many of you feel sorry for this lamp. That is because you are crazy. There's no feelings, and the new one is much better. By the way, if you haven't seen that ad, you definitely have to.
Yeah, it's good.
Poor Greta. Greta.
What was that? Oh, there was a great one. Where it was like, ad? I think it was flambe. It was the IKEA guide. It was like flambe everything.
Oh, okay.
And he's like, oh, don't you love to be flambeing? No, because that literally means you're on fire. And he's like, but it sounds so fancy.
It does, but it's a terrible sound. It's a terrible
It's a terrible thing. Terrible thing.
It's a terrible thing.
But
all right, but something that's just as terrible. We're gonna go
just as terrible. Let's do the weekly exposure, and it is truly terrible.
It's funny how this is actually the weekly exposure.
Yes,
you think about it, actually, yeah.
So it is from last week, but it carried over because we didn't really have a proper show last Thursday. So, man calls Toronto police over naked men exposing their genitals to kids on the streets. Cops saying it's okay during Pride Parade.
Mm-hmm.
So, YouTuber was told by Toronto police that naked men exposing their genitals to kids on the street during Pride Parade was okay. Just want to make sure I'm not working outside any laws or anything like that, political commentator Rob Primo said when he called the department during a recent episode. If you want to be out in the street, you have to be fully clothed. You can't be naked or anything like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
well, I mean, there are naked people running around on the street, and an officer responded. And he's like, okay, but is that against the law? That'd be some mental health issues, answered the officer. I agree with you on that one, Primo stated. I'm having a hard time yesterday. I have a bunch of naked people dancing in front of children, and police officers, I'm seeing men in their pee-pee out in front of kids, and I'm just wondering if that's acceptable. What was that part of the Pride Parade, you mean? Was it on that weekend, the officer asked? And he's like, yeah, it was at the Pride Parade. Yeah, so that's always the issue then every year. I mean, that happens every year.
Oh, it's okay because it happens regular.
Yeah, it's okay when it's at the Pride Parade, but not in other situations, obviously, he asked.
Hey, by the way, officer, I noticed somebody was in the park and they were like literally beating a dog with a stick. It's like, oh, was that during the annual, like, we beat dogs are bad. Bad dogs, get sticks, kind of like, like a celebration. It's like, yeah. Oh, it's okay. They do that every year. So, I mean, people are normally allowed to beat their dogs with sticks, but during that celebration, like, we just do it every year. So it's fine. It's fine because, it's okay when this group does the beating of the dogs, it's tradition, so we can't touch it. Yeah. This takes the whole premise of, like, who has power in society by knowing who you're not allowed to criticize, right?
Yes.
And we had that situation here in Calgary. I mean, obviously other places, but there was that whole issue with that man who went into the women's change room in the local pool, and it wasn't just women, it was primarily little girls, 10, 11, 12-year-old girls who were changing after a swim class, and this man was basically fully 100% exposed and showing little girls his his wang. And yeah, the police are like, oh, nothing to see here. We wanted to see if it was like a case of indecent exposure, but nope, no indecent exposure. What they don't tell you is that because they operate from the code that, like, oh, this is a woman, so, oh, well, it doesn't qualify because it's not as indecent exposure because it's a woman, and it's like, yeah, liars. So, in other words, men committing voyeurism and exposing themselves to, women and children, it's only illegal if you're not part of the Pride community. Men, cheating and using basically, natural steroids, beat other competitors in competitions, that's totally okay as long as you're part of the rainbow community. So grooming children and showing children pornography, it's okay to show children pornography in the open and to keep secrets from parents as long as you're part of the rainbow community. You see how this works?
Yep.
It's sad that it's so open, how blatantly obvious their double standards and their lies are. It's pretty bad. So, anyways, that's definitely something we need to point out. It's something that needs to stop, and thankfully, people are turning against this stuff now, which is great. I'm really glad that they are.
Okay,
right, Steven?
Copying and pasting something.
Copying and pasting something. So, yeah. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that this was the first Pride Month where basically Pride was less popular than it was the year before? Because I've heard people say that, and I'm like, yeah, I actually think that was true.
Well, yeah, I think it was Michael Knowles highlighted a Gallup poll, and support for homosexual marriage, support for kind of the LGBTQ movement, support for Pride hasn't been lower since 2012.
Yeah.
So this is a good way. This is a good movement and a good direction we're moving in. And like the Bud Light effect had its desired intention.
Yeah.
We boycotted it, and a lot of other companies are a lot more tentative of promoting and kind of expressing support for this crap.
Good.
And this is a good thing. Yes. Feel the fear. Feel the fear.
Exactly.
Feel the censorship of Cthulhu.
Yeah, pretty much.
Not so much.
Uh-huh.
But feel the fear for sure.
Fear.
And of course, like highlighting this story, we've exposed that so many people believe that it's okay. It's like, well, as long as the police don't, like, I had a guy, and I've been going back and forth with him because I'm like, okay, like, it's wrong to have all these things in the street, right? And he's like, if the police don't arrest it, then it's okay. And I'm like, but what if it's it's clearly a double standard? He's like, well, if they're not arresting it, then it's not a crime. And I'm like, okay, so like they didn't arrest people who committed slavery. And he's like, well, that's a different time. And I'm like,
Yeah, they always do that.
yep. Okay, so your double standard just doesn't make sense. Hold up to
I love
scrutiny.
I love how people like, always like scoff at like comparisons like that. And it's like they can't actually show why the work.
Mhm.
They're like, well, that's just insane and absurd. That's totally
That's ridiculous.
That's not even remotely similar. I'm like, yeah, just because you've never thought about
Yeah.
it, you don't know how to debunk it and all that. So it's the thing. But thankfully, there is some good news and something that really did happen this week that was actually worth celebrating.
Yes.
What was that, Stephen?
The sound of freedom.
The hills are alive with the sound of freedom.
I wouldn't go there. Let's not.
I mean, that movie was also about like at the end it was pretty dark. They were basically chased out by the powers that be.
Mm-hmm. So, from the Daily Signal, how the Sound of Freedom movie can be a disruptive force to end child sex slavery. Years ago, I started praying a simple prayer: Lord, break my heart for what breaks yours. I want to weep over what you weep over and rejoice with what you rejoice over. It's not entirely original, but over the years, the prayer has become a personal cry. Bad news, sin, depravity is in no short supply. When confronted with tragedy and evil, often we turn away. And this is true, of course, in Canada particularly. When we're confronted with the brutality of abortion, the horror of war, the evil of child sexual exploitation is before us, and many churches turn the other way and ignore it. But that's not what happens in this new movie, The Sound of Freedom. The movie tells the story of Tim Ballard, portrayed by actor Jim Caviezel, best known for his actor in The Passion of the Christ. After working as a special agent for years in the Department of Homeland Security, Ballard quit his job and embarked on a mission to save child sex trafficking victims. Today, he runs the organization Operation Underground Railroad and works with law enforcement to rescue children from the darkest recesses of our world. As the credits began to roll at the end of the film, I felt the weight of the reality of child sex trafficking. I was reminded of that prayer: Lord, break my heart for what breaks yours. Let's watch the trailer. And we will, of course, try and find a way to watch this film and kind of give our review in the next few weeks. So let's watch the trailer, and then we'll kind of talk about the trailer.
How many pedophiles you got?
288.
How many kids you found?
Too many.
It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen. It has already passed the illegal arms trade, and soon it's gonna pass the drug trade. Because you can sell a bag of cocaine one time to a child 5 to 10 times a day. God's children are not for sale.
How long you been doing this?
12 years now.
How many pedophiles you got?
288.
How many kids you found?
Timoteo, tú rescatas niños, ¿verdad? ¿Puedes ayudarme a encontrar a mi hermana?
Te lo prometo.
For Homeland Security, you know we can't go off rescuing Honduran kids in Colombia.
Which means she'll disappear for good. Imagine walking into her room right now, seeing an empty bed. What we do?
You quit your job, and you go and rescue those kids.
So at this moment, she could be a block down the road, or she could be at Moscow, Bangkok, LA. She's a major operator.
It's all rebel territory. No one goes in. Not the army, not the police, not us.
What if this was your daughter?
There's no Marine unit coming.
You're on your own. This job tears you to pieces. And this is my one chance to put those pieces back together.
When God tells you what to do,
Dang.
I know. It's amazing, eh?
Oh, I want to see it so bad.
Couple of things I want to point out, actually. So first of all, I don't know if here, like, let me see if I can find a way to. What would be a good way to send you a link?
Send me a link.
Yeah, to about this movie specifically.
Oh, like that I can pull it up on the show.
Yes. Yeah.
Just send me on Discord. That's fine.
On Discord. Okay. Here we go. This I was really excited when I found. A couple people were talking about this. Is that apparently, and of course, Sound of Freedom is a crazy, like small, low budget kind of film, and it's insane that it beat out it beat out the what do you call it Indiana Jones.
Yeah, it did.
Indiana Jones 5, which is not. There's only 3 Indiana Jones movies. I refuse to even consider them as these
I'm
ones.
I'm with you there.
Yeah, but this movie, like that movie, was super hyped. What was like 300 million, like close to $300 million for Indiana Jones, and this indie movie has basically completely annihilated it. Like that shouldn't happen for a movie as big and with as much marketing, with as much clout as Disney, and with such much name recognition in Indiana Jones. And the people were, and of course that movie's in every theater multi-showing, whereas Sound of Freedom is obviously very limited in how many times you can see it and where you can see it. The fact that it beat that movie is insane. Also, the other thing that I found crazy, I don't know if you pull up Rotten Tomatoes and look up the Sound of Freedom, Steven. That's one thing that surprised me. Like, look up the actual rating that they gave it on Rotten Tomatoes.
This is gonna be good.
It was crazy. I was like, wow, because normally, anytime you have like any movie that's from a faith-based perspective, usually they get destroyed by Rotten Tomatoes, right? But amazingly, somehow this not get basically boycott
16
by major
reviews. Okay, let's see. So Jezebel.
Yeah.
Don't know who that guy is.
Crazy though, eh?
Yeah, it's only 2 negative reviews. Okay. Then make it. Only 2 negative reviews out of all of it. And then all audience, it's just like 4 or 5 stars. Then there's one guy. Everything was bad. Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure it was.
Like the thing that I watched Tim Pool talk about the movie, and he normally is super critical of movies. He basically said that this is like generational, like almost like a generational movie where like it may be a kind of a almost like one of those movies that could potentially have a big impact. Like Passion of the Christ was one of those movies that are just brutal, right? Like so impactful. Schindler's List is one of those movies that a lot of people like really hit by. Saving Private Ryan was like that. I think he's right. I think Sound of Freedom is literally pointing out something that really should impact just about everyone who sees it. He was saying that in the theater, like everyone was like crying, like literally tearing up.
Oh yeah,
watching the movie.
Well,
they were just
it reminds me. Well, yeah, like because you and I both watched Unplanned together. Yes. The first like 5 minutes in the movie, and everybody is weeping,
gut wrenching.
And then, of course, at the end of the movie, of course, we had a standing ovation because it was like there was 3 viewings in Calgary that people could watch Unplanned at. It was really unfortunate, and we got into one of them, and it was good. And I remember like Center Street. I was like, you guys should host a viewing of this film.
Yeah.
And then I forget exactly what pastor was. Oh yeah, we'll do that. And then it's like, no,
never happened.
It's like we can't do that. People will get too mad if we showcased it. Be like, then do it anyway. Grow a pair of balls.
Yeah.
And like this film, like one of my favorite films for years has always been Taken. And it's because of the sense of justice that you feel, because like, especially of course now that I'm a parent, like there's no depths that you would not go to recover your kid. And of course, like this film, they aren't his kids, but in that position, your heart would break for all of the children that you see affected. And in that position, like, of course, the plot of the movie is that his job limits him from actually protecting children, and it's all about like going after the criminals, and the kids are kind of left by the wayside.
Yeah.
And it's powerful in that not only should we be striving to act more like this, where not just in the realm of like, okay, we have to protect children from sex trafficking, but we look at the home front. We look at Canada.
Yep.
There are too many children that are being willfully dragged into sexually exploitative content. Like you looked at that previous story of the weekly exposure. It's like, oh yeah, like men are exposing themselves to children. Why are the children there in the first place?
Yeah.
That's the biggest question of all of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like there's a reason. Like I was discussing with somebody, be like, oh, like nudity is allowed at Mardi Gras. Well, that's very specific. Nudity is only allowed in a certain part of Mardi Gras where children are not.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, it's the same thing. It's public nudity. I'm like, no, it's not. If you are nude on the public parade, they will arrest you on the spot.
Yeah.
That is a clear difference between having a select area where you're allowed to do that. I still disagree with it, but it's very, very different to say that nudity is allowed here and nudity is allowed at this location where children are, and it's with the express intention of exposing children to that in order to groom them to your deviant sexual behavior. And that's the difference. And yes, like there is a level of difference between the deviant sexual behavior in sex trafficking and the deviant sexual behavior in terms of grooming children. But it's a slippery slope, and we're ramping up damn fast.
Yeah, and it's funny because like the same people that like, you know, that support the idea that like, you know, oh, we can do like lewd and public and who cares what you think, are the same people that say like we need to ban all pro-life imagery from streets. You're not allowed to have a poster, or even if it's not even graphic, even it doesn't even have to be graphic. Even if it's a poster that disagrees with abortion, they want those banned because that thing offends me. That's offensive to me. I'm like, well, you know, I'm offended trying to like, you know, of having to walk downtown and seeing a whole bunch of people like, you know, doing like either pretend or real sex acts, wearing like virtually nothing on a float. I'm like, yeah, I'm offended by that. But like, it's again, double standards, but it's crazy. However, the one thing with Sound of Freedom is that Sound of Freedom does to like, particularly like child exploitation and human trafficking, what was it? Yeah, like you said, what Taken did. But Taken was more like everyone knew that was completely fictional, based on some kind of like real ideas that can happen. But most people who watch that like know it's like, yeah, okay, maybe they're exaggerating a bit of how like, you know, how like elite that was.
Because they naturally, because they turn him into like this crazy action hero.
Yeah.
But
and the people who are actually like doing the trafficking are usually like very high end, like, you know, like rich guys who are like, you know, so it's obviously like, you know, very low, very few people are actually being affected. And the girl who was kidnapped was like honestly like a fully grown adult because she was old enough to be able to go to Europe, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was just old. No, she had to sign
she was 18,
to get her,
wasn't she?
No, she was 17. She had to sign to get her dad's permission in the film.
Right, but like she's almost
she was like a couple weeks from it.
Yeah, but like some of the like you hear stories about like countries like Bangladesh, Indonesia, Thailand, where they have like basically pedophile tourism, where men from North America who cannot have sex with children because obviously it's like completely illegal here, go to like places like that, and they basically go and pay like a lot of money. And these are not like super well off rich men. These are just opportunists who basically go and have like sex with little children and all that. And like, there's a reason why this gives you a guttural reaction.
Yeah,
because these are not like, we feel bad enough when animals are tortured.
Yeah,
but this is actual
so
torture of a
worse.
human being. It's like human being is being tortured.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, like he's like Jim Caviezel has said in some interviews, it's like, this isn't like even like people having sex with like a 12, 13-year-old or a 15-year-old kid who, for the most part, like by the time you're 15, you've gone through puberty, your body is mostly sexually like capable. When you're talking about like a 7, 8-year-old child, which like happens in all this human trafficking, you're talking about like long-term damage, because their bodies are not in any way able to do what these people are doing to them. You're talking about like permanent, like serious physical damage, and of course these children are not given any kind of like protection of any kind. It's gross. It's like the kind of stuff that would make anybody's skin crawl.
Yes.
But I'm hoping that, like a couple of people have mentioned, I'm hoping that it has the Uncle Tom effect. So anybody who doesn't know, Uncle Tom was Uncle Tom's Cabin has had a major impact on the Civil War, and it was one of those books that kind of enraged people into action against slavery. And I'm hoping that this movie, like I think Jim Caviezel himself said, a movie can be like a Uncle Tom's Cabin kind of thing. That would be amazing. And let's hope that actually plays into it. So yeah, definitely recommend get your friends, get people to maybe go watch this movie. And if it's sold out, which is looking like it's going to be sold out a lot of places, maybe plan to have a watch party whenever it comes out on video.
That's basically what I'm going to do. Just because, of course, it's very difficult for me to get away and watch a movie.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't take your kids to this.
No, you definitely can't take your kids to this.
I would tell, I think just like Tim Pool said, this is adults. Yeah, don't take little kids. And definitely, even if they're teenagers, don't take them still.
No.
This is too strong.
It's too strong, it's too graphic. But it's definitely something that when we have an opportunity, we will host as many people as we can, and we'll have a grand old night of it. Anyways.
Unlike the groomers, we do believe that there's something called age-appropriate content.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's where we're going to end today's show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed it, of course, give us a like, comment, subscribe, all of that. You can check out our other videos at YouTube, BitChute, and Rumble. Of course, YouTube is for kind of just our main episodes and for our less censorious content. And BitChute and Rumble is where you find everything else. You can also check us out at theshrewddudes.com for all of our content and all of our contact information as well. You can also check us out at our text platforms at Gitter, Twitter, and Facebook.
Yep.
That being said, Danny, sign us out.
Hey, so we're the Shrewd Dudes, and we love doing what we do. We love talking about popular culture, politics, and everything that's relevant. And as always, we like to remind you, why be rude? You can be shrewd instead. Thank you for watching and listening. We'll see you on Tuesday for our Tuesday Newsday live stream. Have a great weekend, everyone. I hope you guys have, particularly our people in the States, I hope you guys enjoyed your July 4th celebrations. Hopefully you didn't get caught up in those crazy firework explosions that made a lot of viral content.
Michael Knowles was reviewing those, and I was like, oh my gosh, these are bad.
Yeah, these are bad.
I also enjoyed Matt Walsh's video for July the 4th, and he reviewed all the worst renditions of the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, really?
The one that Christina Aguilera did was just like,
it was cringe.
It was like, and I'm like, stop! You don't have to do that. And it was like, it wasn't just like one word at like the end of a phrase. It was like every single word or every second word was like, oh, say.
Yeah. Auto-Tune had the most difficult time working with Christina Aguilera.
Oh, it was terrible.
I can't do this.
Yeah, so
Commit
watch that
suicide.
video. It is very entertaining to watch all the different renditions because they're just like
Amen.
painfully bad.
Amen, brother.
So,
Amen.
that being said, have a great weekend. We'll see you all on Tuesday for the Tuesday News Day. Until then, as always, God bless.